Do you know how many people ask me, are the computers there just for show? I'm like, no, I wouldn't put it there if they weren't for show. This isn't a show, guys.
It's not a show. It might be a production.
Yeah.
It's not a show.
I like that. The Chip Lunch podcast is a production. Can't you tell? Welcome back to the Third Space Studio here, everyone, and we are on the Chip Lunch podcast. And guess what? I'm running this thing solo again because I'm the captain of this ship. And
I'm a mere passenger.
And my first mate with me today.
I've been upgraded to first mate rather than just passenger.
From first class to first mate. Jacob, how are you, man?
I'm good.
Excellent. I'm Joel, by the way, I should say. Jacob, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. How are you feeling? Excited? Nervous?
Excited? Nervous?
Sick?
Not that one, thankfully. Yeah, he's over there.
Oh, yeah. The sick one. Many sick ones.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Heard lots about the podcast. Only seen a couple of different episodes.
So seeing you're watching it on YouTube, are you?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Not listening. You're watching and listening.
Well, I mean, I've also been in the room for the production of something.
You have been, yeah, so, been in the background.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's
great to have you in front of the camera today.
Yes, it's exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting.
One day we'll get this man in front of the camera.
Yeah, so Dave, our producer, is episode 100. He's
I've heard.
Yeah, so we need to get a few episodes in before he comes on. But you know, that's what we're going to do.
I can do we can sort of make this like the Hobbit movie, like one book, but so three episodes. That way we get closer to
that's
the 100th.
A good idea.
Yeah.
Who cares about the listeners, eh?
Yeah, no, yeah.
This is about me.
Yes.
I like it. Well, let's just move this out of the way. Thanks, Nikki. So, first question that we always ask everyone that comes on, every guest that we have, how do you like to eat your chips? Hot chips, we should say.
How do I like my hot chips? Well, first of all, I like them with chicken salt.
Ooh.
Because normal salt is gross.
Gross?
Yeah, it's like...
You're slowly becoming the most offensive guest on the podcast to me anyway.
Well, we've still got an entire episode to go.
Yeah, I know.
I've still got plenty of time to make sure that becomes the case. Solidify that record.
Chicken salt.
So chicken salt, and then it on like a white bread roll with tomato sauce.
Oh, okay.
I'm a chip sandwich man.
I mean, I like chip sandwiches, but I just can't do chicken salt. As everyone knows who listens to the podcast regularly, I just can't do chicken salt that much. Yeah. I don't think it's superior to plain salt. Anyway, it's weird that you called plain salt gross though, because you wouldn't have chicken salt without plain salt.
I suppose. Yeah.
But then everyone says, why not make a good thing better?
Yeah. Or maybe just why not make an average thing good? Is sort of where I'm thinking.
You're just lowering the bar.
Yeah.
What would have to happen to make salt excellent for you?
Well,
make it like a spicy salt or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'd need to make it a different color, like pink salt from a Himalayan mountain.
Oh, but that's plain salt.
Maybe for you,
because
you're upper class. But for us normal folk, we use table salt.
Yeah, you normies.
Us normies, we use table salt, and then Himalayan pink rock salt is different.
You're saying like make it a hectic type of salt. I was thinking that. Have you ever remember that McDonald's shaker fries?
Yes.
So you used to like get the normal fries with plain salt, but then you would put like a spice mixture and shake them in the bag to make it the spicy kind of.
Yeah, but is that salt though?
Is it? But again, is that chicken salt? Because chicken salt just have spices and stuff in it. Spices, or I don't know what makes it. We figured that out the other day.
I think like chicken.
What is
like chicken
in
stock?
Yeah, chicken. Chicken salt.
I think only one of the vegetarians who listen to the podcast will probably be upset with me for saying so, but I'm pretty sure they don't like chicken salt.
Really?
I think that is the case. At least I'm led to believe that's the case.
They're talking about umami. No, that's boring. What is in chicken salt? This is great content for everyone listening, isn't it?
Well, we now know for certain that the computers on set are not just for show. They're actually for looking at what's in chicken salt.
Thank you. That's a great point. This is Australian umami. How to make chicken salt.
Umami.
You need powdered chicken stock, like you said.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool. Next question. Let's move on. The next question that we always ask everyone is, how did you become a Christian?
So I grew up with Christian parents, Christian household, Christian grandparents, aunts and uncles, etc.
On both sides of your family?
Yes. So, mum's side of the family, 100% Christian, and on dad's side of the family is like my grandparents Christian, and sort of 50-50 on my uncles and aunties.
Right.
So I've grown up knowing at least about God my whole life, certainly as long as I can remember. Yeah, which has been a massive blessing. And then, yeah, so went to Sunday school when I was little, was an absolute terror. And
what kind of hijinks did you get up to?
Oh, all of the hijinks. I would hide from I went to Caringbah Baptist Church. It's quite a big church. If you've ever been there, they have the like sporting complex out the back.
The indoor sports complex.
Yeah, yeah. But in sort of the main area, there's like a kids play area, and I before church would go and hide in the kids play area every week. And there was a older gentleman whose job it was to round up all the children. And every week we would sit there for like 10 minutes and he would go, "Jacob, you need to come out." And I pretend I wasn't in there. But somehow he knew. I did a good job of hiding. I don't know how he figured it out, but he knew.
You said we. Does that mean that you and a number of other people were doing that?
Yes.
How many?
There was typically one or two others.
You were the ringleader.
I certainly felt like it. I was in there. I was doing it every week. Whereas, yeah, there was sort of my 2IC sort of changed from time to time.
Kind of like the ship that we're on.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
I'm always a constant in charge. You are second in charge today, but not in the hiding from Sunday school leaders.
I could hide under.
That's not a good podcast, though.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's fair enough.
Anyway, sorry. Keep going. So you were sometimes a difficult person at Sunday school.
Yes. That's, yeah. So went to Sunday school, sort of learnt about God, sort of from quite a young age. I remember knowing, at least intellectually, about Christian belief and what the right answers were for things like, all of the Sunday school questions. It's,
God, Jesus, Bible.
God, Jesus, Bible.
Yeah,
it's, you at least get 70% of all questions with that. But sort of, I remember having like a lot of doubt, even when I was, quite young, sort of intellectually debating at the level of a 6-year-old, but over whether or not it was actually believable.
Okay.
So I remember thinking it doesn't make a lot of sense that there's a man in the sky with superpowers who can, do whatever he wants and make everything. That seems unrealistic. I haven't met this guy. Have you met him? So I genuinely remember thinking to myself, like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't believe it. But I remember one of the really big driving factors that helped me to sort of at least look into it more was thinking to myself, well, all these people that I know believe it. I remember thinking to myself, there's all these different people in my family who like tell me that they love God and that God does all these things for them and makes them happy. And I thought, well, I remember one day thinking, if I meet like one more person, then I'll look into Christianity.
That'll be enough.
Yeah, that will push me over the edge. And then I remember thinking that on multiple occasions. And then I think just at some point it sort of eventually clicked for me. I don't like remember a day sort of deciding that I thought that it was real. I think if you'd asked me for a long period of time, I would have said, I think that it's a real thing, but probably didn't believe it.
But you can't remember like specific time. You're like, this is actually, I need to change what I'm thinking now. I can't just keep going, one more person.
I don't remember when it stopped being just one more person that I know believes it. I don't remember when that became, okay, actually, it's not about the amount of people who believe it. It's like, it's real now.
What age were you where you like, okay, now it's real?
I think, I would have been maybe 7 or 8. Maybe less, maybe 6 or 7. But yeah, I don't quite remember.
Well, that's okay. Doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah. And so sort of continued on that track, went to Sunday school, went to, started occasionally going to church with Dad when I got a little bit older, sort of late primary school.
Was that on a Sunday?
Yeah, so we went Sunday morning church typically, but I would occasionally go to Sunday night church with Dad. Just as something that I like doing. I always
like a special trip with Dad.
Yeah, trip with Dad. I always thought it was like, I always found it more interesting because I always used to find that the stories they told in Sunday school were the same stories.
But then if they're preaching from the Bible, it felt like it was different stories.
Yeah.
There was just more to it, I suppose, like the way that they preached it.
Yeah. And the preacher was like, obviously he was talking at like a higher level.
Yeah.
And so it gave me something to,
It was like challenging.
Yeah, it was challenging and meant that I was more interested, more engaged. So I remember doing that for a while. And then sort of come junior high school, like really late in primary school, youth group sort of started up as an option. We were still at CVC at the time, Caringbah Baps. And the youth group was primarily dominated by skaters.
Oh, okay.
So if you've ever been there, there's like the big basketball court that's like sort of concrete floor, sort of similar to this floor. And they would set up skate ramps. So they had these like, someone had built them, but these like pretty good skate ramps that they would set up. And
bit of like a skate park thing going on.
Yeah, fully. And there was like, they just brought out these ramps from in storage, and they would set them up, and so the skaters loved it. But for me, who didn't skate, it was like, well, this is boring. It was like, they sort of catered to that group pretty well, and then it was like, this is strange. So I was there probably less than 6 months, I'd say. Sort of mum and dad were trying to get me to go, but
you're like, I don't want to skate.
Wasn't even, it was just like, I'm not going to try and skate, and I don't have a skateboard.
Were you tempted to get a skateboard, or you're like,
no?
You had a bit of a vibe of like, I'm not even buying into this.
No, it was just it doesn't interest me, so I'm not going to do it.
But you didn't have any like desire to even try and do it?
No. I think when I was younger, I tried, like, because I can skate, and I think I could skate at the time, just obviously not at that level, and probably not down ramps. But
so was it more you didn't want to embarrass yourself, or you don't, or you like just were like, no, youth group shouldn't just be about skating?
I don't think that was like part of me that was thinking about what youth group should be, because it was like the first youth group I've been to. So I was like, I didn't really have anything to compare it against. So as far as I was aware, youth group actually was just hanging out at the weird skate ramp place with like an occasional talk that lasted not very long. And then all of the people were like, all right, can we go back out and skate? So there was no like bar to compare it to. But sort of as time went on, didn't want to go. So I ended up sort of dropping out of that.
And your parents obviously wanted you to keep going to youth group, yeah.
Yeah. And mum and dad would keep pushing me to go, keep going to youth. You got to go to a youth group. It's really important. And I'm like, I really don't want to go.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I found there was a youth group. I was in year 6, and there was a gentleman who was a scripture teacher, and he was like, oh, by the way, we've got this youth group that runs in Sutherland, and it's like, it's not really a youth group, but like we just hang out. And so I was like, oh, all right. So a couple of friends and I went to that for a little while. So I went to that until probably year 7, like end of year 7. So yeah, 2 years. That was good. Had a lot of fun there. That was John's place. It was run by the Anglican Church in Sutherland. I don't know the name of it.
It's St. John's, I think.
It probably is St. John's.
Yeah,
that would make a lot of sense.
I think so.
That would make a whole lot of sense.
Because it's called John's Place.
Yes, that was the yeah.
This is why we have the computer here.
Ah.
What just before you keep going on, what primary school did you go to?
I went to Loftus Primary School.
Loftus Primary School, and then high school.
So in year 7, I was still at the Janali High School.
The Janali High School.
The Janali, not to be confused with any other Janali.
Yes. St. John's Sutherland, can I confirm? It is St. John's Anglican Church.
Beautiful.
I believe. Keep going, sorry.
Yeah, so that was actually, oddly enough, where I got my first taste of intergenerational ministry. Because the format for John's Place was it was a drop-in center, which basically meant that it was a youth group without any organization or talk or anything. It was just like a community hall that you could rock up to between certain times, and it sort of opened it up to people who wouldn't ordinarily attend a youth group.
Just to love people.
Yeah, just to love people. And there was like members of the church who rocked up and would just try and be friends with the people coming along. And that's where I met Dan Gale, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You used to work for this church, Soul Revival Church, yep.
Yeah, sorry, yes. He used to work for Soul Revival.
Because he originally went to St. John's, I think. Didn't he?
So he used to go to St. John's, and I met him there and actually became friends with him at John's Place. So that was, and like I remember thinking, who's this like weird dude with the long hair coming and talking to us? Like,
I feel like that always is a way of youth ministry starting, because like Stuart Crawshaw, senior pastor of Soul Revival Church, was the same. It's like, who is this guy that keeps coming on Fridays?
Who's the weird guy with the long hair?
Yeah, he had a weird guy with long hair, right?
I think that this is the thing.
We actually had 2 weird guys with long hair when it first began. When it was Stu Crawshaw and Tim Baldwin, they both had long hair.
I think we need to copy this and get all of our youth leaders to have long hair.
Okay, well you can start the trend.
Oh yeah, I'll start that trend. Anyway,
so that was. Hang on, did you stop going to the one at Carrying Bar Baptist and then went to John's Place?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think I was probably at John's Place for about 1.5 years, because I think the Carrying Bar one was like year 6 and up. Yeah, so started going to John's Place. Started meeting those guys, and part of the way through year 7, it turned into a youth group. I think they had a change of leadership.
Okay.
The guy who was running it went to a different state or something.
Yep.
And so it changed leadership, and so it became more of a youth group because there was like a talk, and
Be more Bible stuff going on.
yeah. And yeah, so there's like a talk going on, and like it was still the same otherwise, but yeah, we would do that. And then I changed high schools halfway through year 8. And sort of early year 8, John's Place sort of fell through. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but I just know that
Just wasn't happening anymore.
Yeah, they just said, sorry guys, it's actually, not something that we're doing anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's very sad.
Were you pretty bummed about that?
Yeah, I was pretty upset about it. But like,
Because you enjoyed going.
yeah, I enjoyed going. They had a Mortal Kombat machine that was like super old, like arcade style.
Yeah.
It was the best.
That sounds like something that was around in my childhood. If they've found it and picked it up for a good price, and they're just get Jacob to play it
fully.
Did you enjoy it because it was your parents were saying, like, you'd obviously wanted to hear more of the Bible, and your parents were saying you need to go to the youth group, but you didn't want to like have to go to one that had lots of skating in it? Is that why you were enjoying it there?
Yeah, I think going somewhere that actually had like people that I could talk to, because I think when it was like the skater group, it was like those who skate, and there was a very clear distinction between those who skate and those who don't. I remember one of my friends, Eric, and I just like one night sitting up against the wall off to the side, sort of like watching, going, this
wasn't very inclusive.
Yeah. It was like, yeah. So, but John's Place, I had like invited my friends from school, so they were coming along, and there was, these leaders who were like talking to me, even though they were strange, long-haired people.
You felt a little bit of ownership, and you're like,
fully. And it was very much, there was very much a sense of ownership over the place, because I'd been attending for a while, and
it wasn't John's anymore. It's ours, not John's.
Mine now.
Listen up, John. You said that you moved high schools though after that.
Yes.
Where did you go to?
Not long after John's Place closed down, not because of that. I moved to Cronulla High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was at the time still living in Loftus, so it was a bit of a trek.
What was the reason for that?
Wasn't loving it at Janelle anymore.
The Janelle.
Sorry, the Janelle. Wasn't loving it at Janelle anymore.
Yeah.
And wanted to go to a new school, and applied for a couple different ones, and one of the ones that accepted was Cronulla. I was like, oh, I'll go to that one.
Okay.
So went there for the rest of my schooling life, and at the same time, so halfway through my year 8, which was 2013. Yeah, 2013. We also changed church. My parents were getting sort of tired of CBC, not in a bad way, but like, sort of feeling like they needed to get a change of scenery. And so we started looking at new churches, and we came along to Soul Revival when we were at PAC. And I think I came along my first week. Jared Spring, who comes here, was preaching and made a joke about Keyboard Cat, which was...
I think I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, which was like a big thing then. And I thought that was pretty funny. And I thought that's super weird that there's the guy at like church is preaching, but but he's also
bring up memes.
It'd bring up memes on the screen behind him. So it was something I was like, oh, that was interesting. And then after the service, like I was able to chat with him and his brother Keegan, who used to come here, and Ethan, who
he's on this podcast.
Yeah, he's around. No, you guys know him. Yep. So able to talk to them, sort of get to know them, all these strange people, more long-haired weirdos.
Is that when Jared had long hair?
No, Jared didn't. Keegan did. And Ethan did. And it was like a super big change, like as far as church scenery, going from CBC, a church of 400 plus,
right,
like it's huge, to this tiny little building on the street over there. It was like a big change for me. And like doing dinner, and I remember like pretty early, Jared was like, oh, Jacob, come and like clean dishes with us.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, all right then.
Got to be like cleaning up dishes. It's got to be one of the best, like, get involved in ministry things you can do, because it's like, it's so easy, but you just like you're really just hanging out and like wiping up, really. That's what you're doing.
Yes. And like, not only that, but you're stuck in a small space with them because the kitchen wasn't that big and you have to talk to them. It was pretty cool. And in the first like week, I was invited to the youth at Soul Revival. So I rocked up because I wasn't going to youth, and I think when Jared suggested I come, my mum overheard and was like, Jake, go to youth.
Your parents are so keen on youth group, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you reckon there's a reason for that? That they're really passionate about you going to youth group?
I think both of them like really loved their...
A lot of value in it.
Yeah, well, they really loved their youth groups. I believe both of them actually attended Soli's back in the day.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So they were... I think they met with Soli's... Because they were from Bundina House. They met with Soli's on a Black Stump.
Oh, okay. So Black Stump is that crazy Christian music festival they used to have out in a big paddock somewhere.
In the middle of nowhere.
They saw this. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And apparently there was these weirdos waving big flags around the place.
Yeah, they used to do that. This was before even my time when I was part of Soul Revival. So it's going back a bit.
Yeah.
But
it's
they are old.
Yes, well, yeah.
What's Bundina House?
Bundina House there is a it's a community. I think it's a community hall, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
That's down there, and they use it as a church on Sundays, and it's like
in Bundina.
It's
Right.
like on the water.
Oh.
It's like, yeah. If you go into like the main part of Bundina, you actually have to drive past it.
Oh, okay. Bundina House Christian Community.
Yeah,
There you go. Oh, okay, cool.
And it's like, properly fronts, like you walk out the back door
Onto the beach?
onto the beach.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Sun, sand, and bubble. Jesus.
yes.
It's like beach mission every week.
Yeah. So mum and dad were like, you should go to the Bible. You should go to the
Youth group.
Go. I'm like, okay, I'll go. Went to the youth group and was met with a eclectic bunch of teenagers from a high school that I didn't attend, all in the year above me, all at least a year older than me. And all of them were like in their circle. And I remember thinking, it's
oddly familiar.
That's
to begin with.
Odd.
They're not skating.
Yeah. It's kind of reminiscent of youth groups, I guess. I still don't really know what youth groups are. I guess there's always like the group in the big group, and then they're usually doing something rather than just huddling in a circle at random people's houses. Because at that point we didn't have a venue, so we were just going from house to house for people who just offered their houses up every week, ransacking poor people's houses.
Time to be alive.
Oh, it certainly was. But yeah, sort of made friends with a couple of them, with Ethan, with Jared, and some of the leaders, and before too long was one of the strange eclectic bunch in a circle, waiting for new people to come and give weird stares at.
And invite them, eventually get them into the circle.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like still the time where the like leaders weren't quite in the circle yet. And so when I got there, I was like talking to all these leaders and they were all like, oh, why don't you go talk to these guys? And they were like, oh, and also we'll come in and talk as well.
I remember the leaders telling me that's like, they just like stand in a circle and they don't do anything.
And then
the very early stages of Soul Revival's youth group.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was the early part of my.
That was year 8. Is that right?
That was year 8 for me. That was 2013.
What do you reckon changed, like changing from those different youth groups? What do you think that taught you, or what do you think like you learnt from that you think, oh, I wish that they didn't do this? Like, because it's 3 different youth groups. I mean, I haven't, like, to be honest, I only ever went to Soul Revival's youth group, right? And there was different groups, but I just progressed up as I got older, right? But you've gone to 3 different ones in the space, like before you're even, 14, basically, when you are 14. So what was in your experience, like what was the vibe around that?
I think something that was like easy to notice as far as when I changed youth groups was knowing when someone actually cares that you're there.
Yeah.
Knowing that you've been noticed.
And they want you to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just like the scripted, oh, we're happy to see you. It's good that you're here. That kind of thing. But like you can tell when someone's actively wants you as part of a group. And I think like that was a big change that I noticed from the first group to John's place, was that all of a sudden there were these people that I got to know personally. I got to meet Dan before he'd met his wife Renee. And then I met Renee when they started dating, and Renee came along to John's place, like that kind of thing, and getting to know them on a long-term basis. And
it's kind of, so you're saying that the also cool thing was experiencing relationships with people that are different age to you.
Yeah. I think there was, the being able to experience that like relationship, but also knowing that it's a genuine relationship, because I think, I don't remember any of them because I didn't know them that well, but at CBC I like interacted with the leaders, but I didn't really know any of them. I wasn't really friends with them. And so going to John's place, like the difference was all of a sudden, rather than just being nominal friends with someone, I was like genuinely friends with the leaders.
And do you think that was a key part in your discipleship?
Yeah, I think like that change and like being able to be properly friends with someone who is older than you, or even just someone who is different to you, was like a really big thing for me. I think because by this stage, like my Christian walk had I'd matured like physically, but my faith had was only progressing at the same rate as my age was. It wasn't like I was, particularly passionate or anything. It was just that I was no longer 6, so I had a better understanding of what I was being taught, rather than a deeper understanding.
By that time in year 8, did you feel like you needed to know you should be growing more, but you hadn't?
No. I think I didn't actually know that there was a problem. I think, to be perfectly honest, I didn't notice that there was, that I was missing anything, I guess, until quite a bit later, in like retrospectively.
Okay. And is that kind of because you grew up in a Christian family and you thought maybe I do know most of the answers? And
yeah, I think a fair bit of it would have come from that sort of feeling of, I've been around the joint for a while. It's nothing new here.
Yeah, Jesus died for my sins, guys. Like, yeah.
Look, that was like 2,000 years ago. get with it. But yeah, there was like a lot of that, and I think what actually really helped was when I started going to John's place. I actually also started attending. They had a Bible study on like a Tuesday night that I was attending for a little bit. Unfortunately, they opened that up in the home of the guy who then moved state.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I wasn't attending there for long, but yeah, I was attending that. That was really helpful. And then when I changed churches and sort of got to know the guys at Soul Revival, I realized that, hey, it's probably time to start thinking about my faith more seriously. Especially because, when you're in year 7 and 8, you're like hanging out with these people who are like 18, 19 and higher. You'll think, oh, these guys are super cool. I want to be, imitating them. And they're all Christian guys, and they're all like really passionate about Christ. I think there was a sort of a moment where I went, oh, maybe I actually need to deepen this faith and make it a personal commitment.
Yeah, right.
So I think when I changed church, was when I sort of started realizing that, very seriously, and started to,
just because, and like you said, because you'll see older people in terms of their maturity in faith, and you're like, I'd like to do that too.
Yeah.
How did that play out as you're going through the later years of high school? Because what was it like being a Christian in high school?
In high school, being a Christian was difficult, as I'm sure it is in every high school. I certainly wasn't the best representation of Christian living at all times. There's plenty of regrets there, plenty of times that I wish I had done better, not realizing who I'm representing. So there's some parts of it there that were sort of sad in retrospect, but some of the positive parts were that my school, actually this isn't a positive part, it's a negative part, but my school had very few Christians in my year. And of the few who were Christian, most of them were nominal or didn't really care.
Weren't living it out.
Yeah. They're, sort of by the time we hit year 12, there was pretty much no one who was Christian. I think even in year 10 for scripture, I think there was 8 people in my class, and half of them at least didn't actually participate or care. So there wasn't a lot of Christians in my year, but it meant that I was the person that people would come to if they wanted to know something about the faith.
It's kind of cool though.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was also difficult if they wanted to know something about the faith, but also just have a go. Because like, there's some people who want to know something, and some people who are just like, here's an opportunity to be really funny.
Here we go. Let's ask the Christian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was opportunity for for me to talk to people, as well as opportunity for hardship, I guess. I was running the sort of, whilst I was at high school, there was a thing that came out that basically meant the lunchtime Christian group had to stop. I don't think it had to stop. I think it had to get permission notes.
Okay.
And because they had someone exterior coming in.
Yeah.
And so the church who was running that decided that better than doing that was to abolish the group formally, but tell the students that they can run it. It didn't happen.
No, I was going to say that's not going to happen, really.
No, it didn't. So that was like early junior high. And then sort of continued onwards. As I got into year 11 and 12, I decided to start up a Christian group. And yeah, I would run it out of one of the classrooms at lunchtime on, I think it was a Monday.
Did you have many people come along?
The largest turnout was 4 people, including myself and my brother. So I wouldn't say that the turnout was huge. Oh, actually, no, we had 1 week 5.
Oh.
There was 1 week that, another person showed up.
That's good.
Yeah. So
is this why you were considered the person to come and ask Bible questions of? Because you were leading the lunchtime group, or because you were a Christian?
I think
prior to that,
people already knew that I was Christian. Either they'd overheard a conversation or I said something. I was well known for not going to parties because I was going to church or youth group. So there was heaps of different things that I sort of didn't go to because I was like, no, I'm attending church on Saturday night. I can't go out drinking, especially in like late high school.
I think it's interesting that you said that you've got a lot of regrets about high school, but you've just told me all these things about starting a lunchtime group, not going to parties, and you were trying to live it out. So maybe your regret is not living it out more, but you were living out a lot more than other people. And so I think that was an example to people in some way. So just to encourage you, that's pretty cool. But there's not. I mean, I've got plenty of regrets from high school. I feel like everyone would. Hey.
Yeah, I feel like everyone would have regrets from high school.
Yeah, I had a whole lot hit me the other week, and I was just like, I was so bummed at myself. Like you're an awful person. Hey. And yeah, that's what sin will do to you.
It certainly is.
Yeah. So once you finished high school, so you did HSC and everything.
Yep.
What's the plan after that? And what happened to the Christian group after you left? Did it keep going? Did your brother take up the mantle?
I don't know.
Okay.
I asked him one time, and he said nothing's really happening because
you left. It was your fault, Jacob.
Yeah, because it was my fault. Also, all of the members who were attending except my brother were in my year.
Okay.
So he would have been the only one.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's whatever, I guess. That was bound to happen, I suppose. Yeah.
So after high school.
After high school.
What did you want to do after high school?
After high school, I had I'd gotten into Wollongong for a Bachelor of Engineering. Actually, it was Bachelor of Materials Science, which turned to Materials Engineering, which turned to Civil Engineering whilst I was there. It changed a little bit.
Okay.
Everyone kind of changes through university. Yes.
We all do.
Yeah.
Except your course did as well.
Yes. Yeah, so looking at doing that, I did that for 3 years. Bachelor of Engineering is 4 years in total. I didn't complete 3 years worth of content because I was part-time and not doing as well as I could have been.
Why did you go part-time?
I went part-time because I was working as well.
Okay, what were you doing at the same time then?
I was working at Whitehorse.
Oh, the
barista.
coffee, barista, of
Yeah.
course. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're working in barista. Is that because you love coffee?
If I'm honest, when I started working there, they asked me what my favorite coffee was,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Oh,
Cappuccino.
I like it short, like small." And I'd sort of like it was like really early in the morning when they'd asked, and I was like, I'd made a movement to like show small, and he's like, "Oh, an espresso," and I'm like, "That one."
And they're like, "I'm glad we hired this guy."
And they're like, "Oh, cool, here." And I was like, "Okay." And yeah, it was like several weeks of working before I was like, "Oh, actually, this doesn't taste awful. I don't mind it."
Oh, okay.
And so it was actually a taste that I came into.
You acquired.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think
So you didn't drink coffee before then?
No.
Right.
I actually when I started there, I actually really didn't like coffee. All the coffee I'd ever tried, I didn't like.
That's me too, but I'm still like that.
I honestly, I'd never had anything coffee that I'd enjoyed. And then it was the fact that I was drinking, like all the coffee that I'd ever tried was like cappuccinos, lattes, that kind of thing. Turns out I just don't like milk with coffee.
Right.
And I still don't. It was,
Interesting.
yeah, but black coffee I enjoy.
And like a double espresso.
Yes.
That's what you like.
Yes.
So what was the reason behind doing like kind of part-time work and part-time uni? Was it there a reason for that, or you just like, oh, that's how I want to do it?
There wasn't a reason for it. I think like I was struggling like with my mental health.
Okay.
And I was so struggling with studying. And I sort of thought that if I decrease the amount of studying that I'm doing and work a bit more, then, give myself time to rest.
Mm. And did that work out for you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, if you feel comfortable sharing, tell us about. You don't have to go into drastic detail, but tell us what you mean by like you were struggling with your mental health.
Yeah. So in year 12, I was diagnosed with clinical depression anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And so started being medicated for that.
Okay.
And found that a lot of that was tied into like exams and studying and
Just feeling the pressure of that.
yeah.
Mm.
So I suppose the pressure of that and I don't know, the climate of high school meant that, I found it really difficult to study and do well. I was spending like no time studying all the way through year 12, even though I was doing high-end subjects. So it meant that I should have been studying a fair bit.
And stuff like your depression just made it really hard for you to feel motivated to do that. And,
Yeah. Just like sort of feeling like you want to study, but sitting there and being like, I like physically can't bring myself to look at the screen to start studying.
Yeah.
Especially sort of the second and third year of engineering, which become a lot harder than first. I wasn't passing a lot of subjects.
So it had this like a similar effect to what was happening in year 12.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, yeah, like I think all of the like uni study and stuff was having the same effect. But it was more that like by the time second and third year uni came around, I was also because I wasn't studying, I also wasn't passing, which makes sense.
Yep.
And all of a sudden at uni, you have this wonderful option of like just not rocking up, which was not a good thing. Yeah, so I ended up not doing very well for
Did
ages.
you finish the course?
No. So it's a 4-year course, and I did I was only there for 3 years, but didn't do 3 years worth. Yeah, so sort of reached the end of the 3rd year and was wondering what the heck do I do with myself, because I'm not going anywhere with the course. It's like well and truly stagnated. It's not really what I want to do, like, because I'd gotten a taste of some of the things that you do. Started using some of the design softwares to, for
It's like
some,
CAD stuff?
like I was doing some CAD stuff. We were actually using this other thing that the lecturer kept hammering. He's like, this is better than CAD.
Oh, okay.
We, like, all of us in like 3rd year going, what? And he's like, this is so much better than CAD. I don't want to hear about why do we not use CAD. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, and he's just going on and on and on about it. And my mum, who's an engineer, is like, I've never heard of it. Why the hell?
Why is he pushing it so much?
Why the hell
does this guy have shares in this one?
Honestly, turns out he wrote the textbook. Yeah.
There's always a reason.
There's always a reason. Yeah.
What about your faith at that time?
I think towards the end of high school, like, it was good in some areas, and then it was really up and down. Like with my mental health, like I had really high times where I was like on fire, and then really low times. I started dating a girl who wasn't Christian, which was an awful decision.
It was unhelpful. Let's just say unhelpful.
Yes, it was definitely that.
Yeah.
They're like, it's honestly, it's a massive difficulty in a relationship if you're just like not on the same page.
Yeah.
Ever.
In terms of what you believe.
Yeah, in terms of what you believe and like your priorities.
Yep.
And so that was difficult.
A fair bit of clash.
Yeah, that was difficult, and also ended up being the thing that sort of broke the relationship at the end, inevitably. But it also meant that I wasn't leading at church, because I had been sort of helping out with the younger kids group in junior high, and then I was helping out with youth group in senior high. So it meant that I wasn't doing that anymore, because I was, I was currently seeing a non-Christian girl. That was another, and like with the mental health, being isolated from my peer group, which I'd spent so much time with.
At church, you mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because like not leading with all my friends, like Jared and Keegan, who are still leaders, meant that, that sort of compounded other problems.
Yeah.
So there was a fair bit of up and down in high school, like in the later part of high school. But once I hit uni, I think it was a lot better. Obviously I was no longer at high school, so there was no longer a lot of the distractions of things like, people asking you, oh, when you come to a party or that kind of things. I was like, just sort of starting out at uni, and there was so much uni work to do that, like, the only people who'd really pick up heaps of friends at uni were the ones who either lived on campus or like were seeking that out. But by that point, I was seeking out my friendships at Soli's, and so I wasn't seeking out people to meet at the uni bar.
There's always see a uni bar at Wollongong, isn't it?
Yes.
Uni bar.
Uni bar.
You going to uni bar? Yeah.
Yes. We did have several meetings for like subjects there where we'd just like do part of an assignment at the bar.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Well, it's a meeting place.
Yes. But it's when the tutor shows up. It's like, and the tutor had beers with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Why not?
So in terms of like looking forward, how much of the decision to stop doing uni and the things around your mental health and stuff, were you kind of looking to God for answers around that, or was it sometimes is it always? I mean, I think even at that time I wasn't particularly looking for God to that when I was your age, that age. Sorry, I wasn't really probably thinking, oh, I wonder what God thinks about this decision. I'm just curious. Yeah. Is that what you were? Is that what helped you make those decisions?
Yeah, I think by that point, sort of in my third year of uni, I was like sort of at the end of a tether going, if I'm not doing engineering, like I came into engineering not really knowing what I wanted to do. I didn't particularly want to do engineering. It's sort of just what I fell into because it was what I was good at. But I didn't really want to do it, and not knowing what I wanted to do was like 100 times worse. I'm fairly certain that's why I stayed at uni for so long. I probably would have left after the second year if it hadn't been for the fact that I was like mortally afraid of like, what do you do next?
What would I do if I didn't do this?
If I wasn't doing it, what do I do? And so I was like really unsure, and just started thinking about what I was good at, what I wasn't, weighing up the idea and praying about it, for God to give me an answer. And I ended up coming up with sort of narrowing it down to a couple different things.
Yep.
It was become a real estate agent.
Hey.
Yeah, well, talking to people, getting maybe like real estate agent or like sleazy car dealer.
Making deals either way.
Yes. So talking to people, interacting with them, getting alongside people.
So you like doing that?
Yeah, I like reading people. I don't know, you get a sense of what someone's like, and then you can see what works for them. Are they someone who wants this in a car? Are they someone who likes a salesperson who's authoritative? Well, you be more authoritative. Or do they like someone who, seems more of an expert? Or you can tell them specifics. So that kind of thing.
But you didn't become a car salesman, did you? Or a real estate agent?
I became neither of those. The other thing that was on my possibilities list was go to Bible college.
Ah.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to spoiler alert. You're doing that.
I am. I am in my second year.
At YouthWorks, right?
Yes, YouthWorks. So I actually hadn't decided. It was like January and college was starting soon. And
got to make a decision.
Yeah. And I was like, oh,
sell cars or
this is not good. And I was unsure, and I had been sort of each year, sort of year 9, 10, 11 and 12, I'd been to a camp called LIT, Leaders in Training. And we were on schoolies with that year's year 12s, and we were at Jamboree, and it just so happens that we were at one of the, I think we're at like the water, the big area that has like all these, it's like climbing equipment and stuff, and there's like water pistols, and there's a big bucket on top.
Oh, yeah. It's like the kids area, really, isn't it?
Pretty much the kids area, and we were like causing terrors because like we were all, 18.
Yep.
well, I wasn't. I was one of the leaders. But like, yeah, all these like big kids and all these little people like, Mum, why is there the big people on the right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and look at the lifeguard, and he's one of the guys I met on LIT, who I was friends with. And I hadn't seen him in like forever. And it like sort of brought back all of these memories of how good it was to be in a community of people my age who are on fire for God, who are learning how to serve him better. And so I actually decided that day.
There and then.
Yes. After having talked with him, I was like, right, Bible college it is this year. That's what I'm doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, I came home and started doing the application forms.
Get me the forms.
Yes. Someone find me a pen and forms. Yeah. And had my interview, went to that. They were like, oh, what do you expect to do with this? Like, if you get the, because I'm only doing a advanced diploma at the moment. Like, oh, what are you looking to do with this? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm just here until God tells me otherwise.
Yeah. Which isn't bad.
And they're like,
that's what you did to get there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it was perfectly the truth. I was like, well, I think this is where God wants me. I'm just going to be here until it turns out that he either does want me here and I'll stay, or doesn't want me here and I'll find somewhere else to be. And the guy who was interviewing me was like, oh, that's strange, but okay. He just kind of looked at me funny. He's like, that's not what I expected to hear. Usually I expect to hear, oh, because I'm a kids minister. No, just, all right. Yeah, so I've been doing that, and fingers crossed, God willing, I'm going to try and get into more college next year.
Oh, fantastic.
And actually continue the study, get a Bachelor of Divinity.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So do you think you will want to become a pastor?
That's where I want to be at this point.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
What an interesting way to come about basically training to be a pastor.
It certainly is.
That's cool though.
Why'd you decide to be a pastor? Oh, well, I went to Jamboree.
Yeah, and there's this guy I met before was there, and like God said, be a pastor. That's what happened. I've got two more questions before we wrap up the chips, as we like to say. The first one is just to pick up something you said earlier. Was I think when you said you went to John's place, you said it was your first experience of intergenerational ministry. Why did you bring that up? Because you will know, and many people listening, that Soul Revival Church, we like to practice intergenerational ministry. So lots of different ages mixing to be able to learn from each other. But why did you bring that up? Is that something that you found that is important, and why do you see it as being important?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I didn't then. I thought it was weird, as I've said. But I now realize that it's amazing. Like, I was thinking about it the other day and realized that I have more friends who are 2+ years above me in age than I do that are my age.
Yep.
My current friend group is like people who are 2 to 20 years older than me or 2 to 5 years younger than me.
Which is probably the same for me too.
Yeah. And it's awesome. Like, I'm heaps good mates with Jared and Keegan and Dan still. You know, all those boys who I rocked up to youth with, they're all 2 years older than me at least. And I'm still great friends with all of them. I think it was something that really helped my faith.
It does seem to have shaped your spiritual maturity.
Yeah.
In a number of ways, like as you grow up.
Yeah. It was very catalytic for change, I think.
Cool.
especially sort of if you actually get alongside someone who's younger, you can, be such a wonderful blessing to them, and without trying to, you can be an implement for change in their life for massively positive things.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, final question. Though I did like that answer. Final question before we wrap up the chips. Looking back on your reasonably short life, you're only 20, what are you saying? You were saying earlier, 22?
I turn 22 tomorrow.
22 tomorrow.
Yes.
But this will come out a week later, so.
Oh, well, 22, 6 days ago.
Very nice. I can see why you're looking at engineering. Looking back on it, what do you wish you knew earlier in your Christian walk that you know now?
I would say remember that you're actually representing a people that's bigger than just you. Like I said, there was some great times in high school and not great times. I think.
You mean like a kingdom representative?
Yeah,
what you mean? Like God's kingdom.
Yeah. I represent. If you're a Christian and you tell people you're a Christian, which you absolutely should, if you are, then you actually represent Christians. When you go out and you help someone, you do a nice thing for someone, you show compassion, show love, you represent Christians, and that person will think, wow, that person was really loving and they're a Christian. Maybe there's something different about them because they're a Christian. If you go out and you put people down and tear into them and make fun and act like everybody else, then you're still representing Christians, but not positively. And I think the world is always trying to catch Christians off guard and catch them at their worst. And so if you aren't keeping in mind that you actually are representing God and all of God's people, then you're likely to slip.
It makes me, what you're saying made me think of that verse, and I just had to look it up because I couldn't remember where it actually was, but about being Christ's ambassadors. It's in 2 Corinthians 5. It says, "We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God." I think that's really cool. I think that's what you're saying, is that, it's important to live out what we actually believe.
Yeah.
So, that was cool. Anyway, thanks for joining us on the Chip Lunch podcast, Jacob.
Thanks for having me.
It was really great. Would you like to do us the honour of wrapping up the chips? And I think that might be a good title for the episode too. Be ambassadorial. Don't you think that's a funny word? It's a very official word.
Ambassadorial. Is it a word?
It might be. We'll look it up before we put it on.
We'll
as
look
the
it
actual
up on
title.
the computer.
Yes.
That's what it's for.
Yeah. Is ambassadorial. Oh, can't spell it probably. Dorial. Word. That's all I done. It is.
Oh.
It is, look.
Ambassadorial.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Ambassadorial.
Of or pertaining to an ambassador. So anyway, I think that's a good way to finish it. Let's be ambassadorial for Christ. Yeah, excellent. We'll finish it one way. You want to do it one way?
Yes.
Thanks, man. One way.